Welcome to the Responsible Supply Chain Show, where we explore the world of responsible sourcing and resilient supply chains. I'm your host, Justin Dillon, and in each episode, we'll dive into real stories from some of the world's best business, government, and thought leaders protecting people, planet, and profits. Let's get it. Episode 20. We're in the 2-0s. I'm very happy about that. Thank you to everyone who has been listening. And when we started this, it was just let's just throw a line in the water, see what happens. I continue to meet people that are listening to the show. And if this is a show that you like and you're getting something from it, please hit subscribe so that we can find you when it comes out and, help a brother out. Tell some people. Today's guest is Sheri Hinish. Many of you know her as the supply chain queen with air quotes. That's a big title, and she fills it. And she advises Fortune 500 companies, governments, nonprofits, and tech startups on sustainability strategy, AI, tech, and ecosystems. I've known Sheri for a while. She's had tours of duty at EY, IBM, countless others. Not only is she incredibly smart and knowledgeable, she's a practitioner, which we'll get into why that matters, and she communicates well. She is one of those, you understand why she is so popular and knowledgeable and is a go-to source for information around supply chains when you meet her, and you are about to. Full disclosure, Sheri and I have worked on projects and even written a white paper together about supply chain resilience, which she reminded me of. I actually forgot about it, but apparently it's aged well, unlike many white papers. Does anyone actually really read white papers anymore? That seems like white papers are just like, kindling and paper for AI to just burn up and regurgitate. I have a hard time reading technical material. There, I said it. That's probably why I was a C+ student and my teachers didn't really like me very much. Wasn't all teachers, but there was a few. The truth is, I tried. I just don't learn that way. I just don't learn by just regurgitating, memorizing and regurgitating. I read 5 times more audiobooks than physical. That sounded like a flex. I learn more by doing, actually. Ironically, I was actually invited back to speak at my high school and my college, which might have felt like a haha, I showed you I'm not as dumb as you thought I was. It didn't. I didn't carry that with me. I think what it was for me, going back to places where I felt like I failed, it taught me was that people learn differently, and that there really are kind of 2 different types of people in the world. There are thinkers and doers, and I kind of fit more in the doer. Theorists and practitioners. People just hold knowledge differently, and they express that knowledge differently. And to be clear, we need both, but sometimes theorists try to come across as practitioners, and that's where you create a lot of waste in organizations. Consultants are by definition theorists, advisors, strategists, which obviously have their place in the marketplace, but the promise of AI is already starting to disrupt this vertical of business, and this is exactly what Sheri and I are going to get into. We're also going to get into what sustainable supply chain management looks like in the New World Order. That's right, the New World Order. This discussion was recorded during the week of World Economic Forum, which was focused solely on the New World Order, and supply chains, once again, were a primary topic of discussion. So let's get into my interview with Sheri Hinish. Sheri, so good to see you again, my friend. Where am I finding you today?
I'm actually at home today, but yeah, it's so great to see you, Justin.
Good.
Friend of the Supply Chain Revolution podcast. We've worked together, we've partnered together. So this is like a full circle hug for us.
Yeah, we thick as thieves. One day we're just gonna have to just break the glass and just start a band. We're just get over, stop playing around, just do what everyone's demanding all over the world, that Sheri and Justin start a band together.
I thought you were going to say startup, tech startup, but
band.
start up a band. Okay, I'm in.
It's not too late. We can still make it, It's just this whole new world.
Absolutely.
But that's not what we're here to talk about today. You seem to see around walls and are able to articulate that correctly. And you've got a track record for it, and people trust you. Some of the biggest brands in the world trust you to do that. So we're grateful. We, the collective, all 5 of us who listen to this podcast, are grateful for, my mom's in that. We're grateful for you to be here. Hi, Mom. Yeah, we're grateful for you to be here for this. So I thought we'd kick off with probably one of our favorite easy punching bags to talk about. It is the time of year for the World Economic Forum. And I've never been invited. I'm not safe in those rooms, but
I don't know that I am either.
I'm pretty sure you are. You're prime material, but you've been several times. For our listeners who don't know what World Economic Forum, otherwise known as WEF, is, maybe you can explain it a little bit. And then I noticed a post that you just did talking about how they just released their global risks report, which I think is going to be really important to understand how World Economic Forum is kind of positioning the world of risk, which that seems to be what everyone's talking about. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that. But first, tell us what World Economic Forum is, how bougie it is.
Well, so WEF is a convening forum, and there are a lot of these, especially at the intersection of think about trending world topics, current state, future paradigms, and convening business, government and policy, a lot of the big technology firms, and sort of the who's who of the C-suite in particular, including the investment community, typically go to Davos every year. Happens mid-January. It kicks off on January 19th, I believe. It is an interesting forum. So my opinion of events like WEF have evolved over the years. Sure I do think there's value in convening these folks together, and anytime there's an opportunity to get decision makers in the room. And we all know about how important policy and government is right now, the state of the world, which I think we're going to get into. It's important that these forums exist. Are they disconnected from what's happening on the ground? Maybe. Are they disconnected from the reality of the common folk and people who are struggling with issues that aren't esoteric and maybe aren't front of mind? We're going to talk about some of those topics today, but does it feel like detached, kind of like not capturing the pulse of the communities and the communities that we serve as supply chain and sustainability leaders? Mm-hmm. Yeah. But they have great thought leadership. I'm not poo-pooing them.
Yeah. We got all the punching bags, like flying your jet in to talk about climate change. Like those are all the easy targets, right? No one seems to care about that anymore. We're past that. So but people still listen to WEF, and most importantly, decision makers listen to WEF, and they just put out this risk report that you've got some commentary on about what's near-term risk and what's like what WEF considers to be 10-year out risk that people are paying attention to. I thought it was really interesting. I'd love to hear your take on those two columns, and we'll put the resource up for people listening to the podcast, but maybe you can walk us through that.
Yeah, amazing. And you've already highlighted some of the more short-term, typically 2-year horizon versus that 10-year. I would even say, 3 to 10-year horizon, which hasn't changed, obviously, because we only have one home. We're on it. But what's interesting and what you teased out was in 2022, it really was a landmark year for the WEF Global Risk Report. And Justin, I think we were partnering then when I was at IBM, and we actually wrote a really cool white paper that folks it's out there, but like, it's interesting because people are just now starting to think about human rights as a leading indicator for supply chain decarbonization. And what's changed between 22 and now, it wasn't the science. It was the geopolitical environment. It was regulatory fragmentation. So think about the acronym soup of ESG reg frameworks and the start, stop, it's here, there's momentum. Wait, we're pushing the brakes. Trade wars, tariffs, industrial policy conflicts, like these things, these topics all shape how companies make decisions today. Again, they have to be somewhat profitable to stay in business. And even though that long-term value is still going to be dictated by ecosystem resilience, climate stability, businesses can't succeed in societies that are failing. It's really like a WTF moment for a lot of us that have been in this space for a long time. It's a dual reality, because it ends up feeling like it's climate versus geopolitics, and we shouldn't be thinking that way.
It's a poor framework. Yeah. It seems like the to your point, the acronym soup of ESG, DEI, all the rest of it, got thrown into partisan politics, broken apart political football. And I'd love to get your take from behind the scenes. Are people still doing the work on these issues? Or is it because it's obviously not the headlines, right? And it's not the near-term goals anymore. Are companies still doing the work on this?
This is such an emotional question for me.
I'm sure, because you work on it. So you've fought for this.
Yeah, there was a lot of momentum that build from, like I said, 2022 was really a breakout year, a breakthrough year for sustainability and, of course, responsible supply chains. And I had a lot of momentum in 2024, specifically with a few marquee clients that had the ability and the platform to really make a difference in the world. And I think, to your point, the work is still happening. The language that's used has changed, especially for a lot of the big tech firms. I think there is political backlash and a bit of fear around talking openly about these topics. And I knew you were going to ask me this question, and I really thought hard about it. It kept me up last night because I'm at a point in my life where, I've lived more life than I have left on this earth. Okay. And so it pushes me to really challenge, who do I want to be right now? What do I stand for? How am I using my energy, my time, my talent to have the most impact to create a world where we can all thrive? Nature, society, business, technology, our kids. And I think there are a lot of companies out there that still have hope. They still believe, they are still purpose-driven, but they are absolutely skating a line between being able to keep the proverbial lights on and keep folks employed, and stay in business and still get the type of funding that they need without it being politically charged. So there is a nuance in the hush. The nuance is we're talking about sustainability, circularity, the morality of being like an enterprise. The words are different. Decarbonization, circularity, a lot of the transitional words, but with a different flavor. Am I a fan of that? It's a mixed bag.
Well, I mean, who cares if the language changes?
I don't know that I feel that way anymore, though. I used to feel
we got to go full Hemingway, like kill your darlings. Like, who cares about your words? It's about what's communicated and what's done that matters. And I think is it green hushing? Is that a term now? Like,
social washing, green hushing.
Yeah. I mean, that's all just schoolyard talk, right? It just seems like every great movement hits walls along the way. I think it's what makes movements great is the hitting of walls. If you watch what Dr. King did and his popularity at the time of his death was not what people think it was. They think he was just crushing it. He was not crushing it. So it's it's hard when you're a practitioner inside of a movement because it can and does, it can't not feel personal. But we are part of something much bigger that goes beyond the extent of our lives, whatever we have left. Yeah. It's and you've put and I think it's important for people listening to this podcast. It's like there are people out there that are fighting the good fight, and it's not an altruism. It's not a better than. It's just you're fighting off of conviction and your belief that business can not be better but do better. Is that the right way to say it?
Absolutely. And I think the other thing is that matters. And I understand your point of view. I absolutely respect your point of view around words are words, but actions speak louder than words.
Oh, 100%.
Right.
Yeah,
and
100%.
So we are in this, I think, for folks who can't see the background, who are listening via audio, there's a picture of a rebel. And there's also the universal sign for love on my background. And when
I thought that was
we are rebels,
that's love. I thought it was always Black Sabbath for me, but
yeah. Okay. That works.
Also Fulmer Plus. Yeah.
Yeah. The rebel is really the architect of change. And when you look throughout history, they've been revered as the sinner and the disruptor, but then also the saint. So it's a very beautiful dance of intention, and that you show up as you are, you have the hard conversations, you don't give up, plus, you're in the trenches with your knuckles in the mud. We talk about words being used. If you don't give truth and power in the words that you speak, it can feel slightly inauthentic. And as I've gotten older and I have been exposed to really large transformation and large brands, no enterprise or brand is perfect. No human is perfect. And so I probably give more grace than I used to. And I also show diplomacy more.
Yeah.
So it's complicated, just.
Well, look at us. We're growing up.
We're growing up. I just said diplomacy with a rebel graffiti artwork in my background.
Right. Well, it reminds me of something when I used to work in the arts, of this concept of dead artist syndrome. Dead artist syndrome. The idea that the work becomes more valuable when the artist is no longer around to take credit for it. And that could be a little bit of a learning of and what it does is it ties you into, if you're trying to do something that is going to shift the way the world works, you have to let the work go and not make it about you. And artists who make it about themselves, we can all see it. It's kind of like you're trying to get something out of it. You're here to serve us and make us see the world bigger as an artist. That is your job in society. And when I think if you're trying to change the world, same thing. It's like you just got to put the work in. So here's my question. Do climate goals still matter?
Yes, of course.
Why?
I think one of the sticky points here is the nuance between ambition and goals.
Mm-hmm.
So ambition is supposed to feel big, right? Ambition is supposed to be something that is somewhat aspirational. It's supposed to be big enough, and I think about longer arms for a bigger hug, bring others into the fold where you can really build a groundswell and create an orbit or an ecosystem around that ambition. Bring others like you and people that need to join with you. So that's ambition. Goals, I feel, represents more of the operational, pragmatic lens of, okay, how do we achieve it? And if you don't have a goal, which is measurable, which is manageable, which holds people accountable for, do you do what you say you want to do? What the hell are we, what are we doing? What are we cha-chaing around wanting to be sustainable, responsible, ethical, all the things. So goals are really important.
Speaking of goals, at the UN General Assembly this year, as everyone was slowly starting to make their way out of the building, Xi Jinping set some climate goals, like crazy ambitious climate goals for China. And like setting new goals, right? So part of what I'm interested in is like, we get tied to these goals that we set, but people are still setting new goals. And I'm really interested in the goals people are setting in this environment, not the 2015 environment, or the 2022 environment. But when people set climate goals now, it feels different. And
It is.
when he was setting that goal about reducing emissions some crazy amount, what is unique about this is structural goals. Yes, it's drawing down emissions, but it's also drawing down the use of energy, which they desperately need to, because everyone is after. So now we have this like ambitious, this is good for the world, also good for commerce and for state. That's what goals feel like, that goals are being set now are less about ambitions and more about like, yeah, we can measure this, we can manage it. Also, every year we hit, our organization or our country is going to be doing better. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're spot on. And the context has changed. So you mentioned structure, it's more structural. And how I would interpret that, and I'm, in the background thinking about client work over the past 5 years, it's gone from sustainability as a business unit, or even as more of a philanthropic CSR, maybe it's aside from a business performance, to being incorporated into financial flows and modeling. And obviously energy, water, waste, a lot of the topics, material utility, a lot of the topics that are near and dear and very familiar for supply chain procurement and operations folks. This is your moment. I mean,
100%.
UNGA in New York Climate Week, September of 2025, I did not enter a single room where supply chain wasn't front of mind and topics that everyone wanted to unpack and unpick.
Yep.
So I think, to your point, what's happening now is sustainability performance management is being embedded on the desk of the CFO and part of her or his goals. And that includes, renewable energy, waste management, optimization, incorporating any technology spend at the desk of the CIO or senior most IT folk. They are looking at, how do I embed something that might have been standalone or cobbled together with Excel worksheets? How do I embed that into any IT or technology spend and modernization of ERP, and also reaching further back into the supply chain or across the value chain? So I see those as new buyers. So it's not just supply chain CSO, it's CFO and CIO.
Like who you need in the room for if anything's going to get done.
Yeah.
You need the CFO in the room, like they're the parent in the room, right? And so
the parent in the room. Well, every job is a sustainability job. I mean, it's not like,
and increasingly every job's becoming a supply chain job, because you're looking everywhere where you can for, and this is just it. This is my whole point about words is if cost savings, energy efficiency, these buzzwords parse as sustainability, but don't have the sustainability label, who cares? If it gets done, my whole point of if it falls under the checkbox and the achievement of, we saved a bunch of money because we reduced our shipping lanes and we saved much more money on our data centers, which we're going to talk about in a second. It just seems like it gets done. And the attention to energy is at a fever pitch now, with data centers going up, claiming to take what in America, they're claiming it's going to be 6% of all energy. If you were head of procurement right now, you've got a sustainability team who knows a ton about energy, and you're trying to figure out how to save money. How would you bring the sustainability team in with the one goal of save us money, save us energy?
The business case for change is important because it's a door opener. It's foundational savings and efficiency and optimization, including cost savings. And there are other dimensions, 8 levers of EBITDA that will get you a funded business case, get you maybe even through the first 2 years, because your internal rate of return was previously really hard to tackle. And now you feel like you're flying high, and it's all through the lens of cost savings and efficiency. However, what I've also seen and what I still stand on now, almost a decade later, is that never underestimate the power of purpose. Because why? If you start with why people are doing things, it really can become a bridge of resilience.
People need to see where they fit in the story. And it seems like what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing from you, I'm hoping I'm hearing this, is that people are starting to see themselves in the story of sustainability, even if their story is part of saving the company X amount of dollars over the next 5 years. That's a story they can be a part of. It's hard to be a part of a story that ends in 30 years from now. It's very, very hard to feel like you're part of that story.
Yeah, and beyond like the classic levers that probably folks listening would understand, it's value. I think that's why I said we're transitioning to a values or value economy, because that is not short-termism. That is not your classic financial standard of measuring what success looks like. Value is much deeper. It taps into the human experience. It talks about increased lifetime wages or earnings. It talks about being able to provide a fair living wage, which gives folks access to benefits that have, like I said, they create value. When we think about sustainable development, access to healthcare, access to education.
I often say in my Hopeaholics Anonymous meetings that value and values are two sides of the same coin. And when you can bring value to a company by distributing values that we all believe in, they don't have to be separate. And I think it's a poverty of imagination that we've adopted in companies, that they value and values are just like two sides of the business. I think it's just absolute BS. PwC just put out a report that said 92% of supply chain tech investments haven't fully met results, which, the tech companies say, the AI companies say, wait. And that it's fair, but come on, this is historic amounts of investment. Yeah. I feel like we're not being super honest with ourselves about the returns on investment because we're embarrassed about how much we spent.
Consulting firms typically charge for their time and materials. And so you see that paradigm where now it's moving from that billable hourly rate to what value are you creating? And more of a gain share model where if value and outcomes are what you are driving for me engaging you, Mr. or Mrs. professional services firm or advisor, what am I getting on the other side of that is exponential, that isn't just your classic lens of, run-of-the-mill, what I would call business as usual transformation outcomes. And a lot of that, I think, to your point, how is it changing professional services firms? This is my motto, less but better. Because growth doesn't necessarily mean more people. You may have less people who are better skilled, who are able to use AI for increased quality and productivity gains, increased volume and output of work to drive value-based outcomes.
What's a good consultant do in opposed to a bad one?
I try to avoid bad consultants.
We all do. I think none of us want them.
I can't speak from the perspective of a bad consultant. Good. I have observed and avoided bad consultants. I'll give you a real-time example, and I'll leave out names to protect the innocent. Also, diplomacy, which I've learned.
And grace.
I used to catcall. I don't catcall now.
All right. Well, it does make for a better podcast, but go ahead.
Okay. I find it incredibly eye-opening, and it is just a WTF moment when I am sitting within a supply chain operations practice and we're talking about strategy and we're talking about the future of supply chain. with exponential tech, AI, quantum, digital twins, agentic, on and on and on and on. OT, IT.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, just by show of hands, how many of you have actually been an operator, a practitioner, or worked in a supply chain?
I know.
And if you're operating only from theory or only from rinse, repeat, decks, frameworks, approaches, do you really understand the human experience, the change for long-term stability, resilience, and value creation that's needed?
Yeah.
So when you walk in a room and you show up as a knower and not a learner, very nuanced shift that I think is needed. And so Gemba is part of that. It's the walk of really meeting your client, customer, actor in the supply chain, where they are, and trying to really understand what's happening. And it's this world of consulting where we need to be eternal students.
I'm hoping you can kind of like close us out here in our conversation. I think that so many times we talk about the problems and the process and the transformation. We don't talk about outcomes.
I do. There's a client that comes to mind, and it's interesting because, I didn't know about the brand historically. And at one point in my career, I worked in specialty chemicals. And so that was also a turning point where I was like really starting to say, like, what do I stand for? Like, the company that I work for has to represent the type of future and want the type of future that I want for everyone, for my kids, a future where everyone can thrive, including nature as a key and central stakeholder. The reason I mention this is because this client in particular has a really bold vision for how it plays a part in transforming the world we share. This company in particular really stood by their values, their commitment to what I would call decarbonization, being a steward of sustainable and responsible materials. I continue to be really impressed how the CEO shows up on LinkedIn and in the press, and they are not taking their foot off the proverbial pedal. And that is incredibly inspiring.
People with a point of view, not the point of view that everyone wants them to have, the point of view that they've chosen to have, are so attractive.
Yeah.
When you have a point of view, in and out of season, it's just like, that's called conviction. And that is who you are. You are an operator with conviction. You are the Harriet Tubman of sustainability in my book.
Oh, wow.
And put that, get rid of that rebel and put Harriet Tubman of sustainability back there.
Harriet Tubman spent a lot of time in Maryland, and I'm a Maryland girl, so that's a huge compliment.
So you are truly that. Thank you so much for coming on. I always enjoy our talks and always leave wanting more.
Oh, thank you, Justin. It's a pleasure. I'm a fan. And for folks who don't know this, we go back. We've been doing this for a while.
We've been in the trenches.
It's such an honor.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is the one thing, the part of our show where we dig into one idea from our discussion. One thing is clear coming out of WEF. We are now living in a new world order. This post-globalized world order has new rules everyone is trying to write and understand at the same time. For most of my life, the rules of supply chain management were simple: fast, cheap, and good, or at least good enough. Find the lowest cost supplier anywhere in the world, optimize for efficiency, and keep the goods moving. This globalized playbook powered unprecedented economic growth and put previously unimaginable products within the reach of billions of consumers. My access to goods, compared to, say, someone living during the 1500s at the base of the Andes, was measurably better. As we've heard from the leaders at WEF, a fundamental shift is underway. The supply chains, trade agreements, procurement systems, and technologies that served us well in the globalized era are struggling to meet the demands of what's emerging, a post-globalized supply chain landscape governed by entirely different rules. Where the old playbook prioritized cost reduction, the new rules are simple: resilience, control, and, wait for it, sustainability. Companies that fail to adapt will find themselves vulnerable to risks they can't even see. So here are the new rules to consider for the post-globalized supply chain era. Rule number 1, resilience over cost reduction. The old supply chain playbook was straightforward: find the lowest cost, whatever it may be. Today, it's about diversifying risk, and the numbers do the talking here. 77% of supply chain leaders are actively regionalizing their supplier networks. This isn't just press release talk, it's a strategic shift reflected in major investment decisions. Consider Apple's choice to secure rare earth magnets from domestic sources inside the US rather than remaining fully reliant on lower cost suppliers in China. That's a new rule. Rule number 2, supply chains are being weaponized. Supply chains were once invisible cost centers. Today, they're geopolitical power levers. China's export controls on rare earth metals served as a wake-up call. With control of over 90% of processed rare earths, materials that are essential to manufacturing everything from smartphones to electric vehicles to defense systems, China demonstrated that supply chain dominance can be leveraged for geopolitical gain. The geopolitical landscape just became even more volatile. The United States military intervention into Venezuela, capturing President Maduro and asserting temporary control over the country, has escalated tensions with China and heightened concerns about Taiwan. China, which has invested over $4.8 billion in Venezuela over the last 2 decades, strongly condemned the action for obvious commercial and geopolitical reasons. Rule number 3, sustainability is now a structural imperative. This is really important. Sheri and I talked about this. Viewing ESG as a political football was last year's trope, okay? It's the equivalent to a dad in his 50s waving his hand saying 6-7. In the post-globalized era, sustainability is structural to supply chain design and management, and the reason is very simple: energy. The explosion of AI and cloud computing has created an unprecedented energy crunch. Data centers consumed 4.4% of total energy in 2023, 3 years ago, and are projected to consume between 6.7 and 12% by 2028, 2 years from now, potentially doubling or tripling in demand in just 5 years. Goldman Sachs estimates data center power demand will surge 165% by 2030. This is where supply chain sustainability shifts from compliance checkbox to competitive necessity. 85% of supply chain leaders believe energy reliability will be the next major supply chain crisis. With AI and geopolitical tensions straining energy infrastructure, companies are hunting for efficiency gains everywhere. As my therapist says, 2 things can be true at the same time. Improvement in supply chain visibility and resilience can both be good for business and good for people and planet. Thinking and planning your supply chain with a zero-sum mindset is so 2022. Thank you for listening. If you like what you've heard here, please share with your network and hit the subscribe button. We'd appreciate it.